Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Art 195, 3D modeling for animation, the fall semester of 2021. Today, what I want to do is begin on the topic of UV maps, which are a little bit more sophisticated way of mapping surfaces. So as a means of introduction to that, I'm going to start with something very simple, which would be maybe creating a rectangle that would be used for a flag, map an image onto that flag, and then show you what would happen if you don't use UV maps versus if you do. And then that should wrap up the day. And then on Wednesday, we'll continue. And I will probably move on then to displacement maps, which will are also a nice addition to complex mapping techniques. So let me start by just using a box here, and I'm going to create a little rectangle, and that's it, like so. Okay. And because I plan on distorting this later on, what I want to do is I want to add some sections to this. So I'm going to add geometry. So to do that, I'm going to go to multiply. And what I want to do is I want to divide. Okay. Oh, come on. Where are we? Subdivide. There we go. I got the wrong. There we go. I want faceted. Click OK. And so we can see how many of these we have. I'm going to go ahead and put in texture wireframe so I can see it in the perspective view as well. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this a whole bunch of times. Subdivide. Because I want to be able to bend this and twist this any number of ways. So we'll go ahead and we'll add this. And again, I'll do this a bunch more times. Maybe one more time for good measure. Subdivide. And now what I want to do when I twist it, I don't want to have any non-planars, so I'm going to triple it. So with everything selected, I'll just select Shift T or click on triple here. And that divides it into 3-pointed polygons now instead of quads. So now what I want to do is I want to apply a surface map to this. So I'm looking here in the perspective view. Hopefully all of you guys can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the surface editor, or actually before I do, I'm going to hit Q. And I'm going to make this a new surface. And I don't want this to be the default. I'm just going to call it flag. Okay. And I'll give it a color just so you can see what's going on here. Give it a nice blue or red or something. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. And because we want the flag to be red on both sides, I'm going to go ahead and make it double-sided. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the surface editor. You can see that we have the flag. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on double-sided so we can see it on both sides. But what I want to do is I want to apply an image to this. So if I go ahead and I go to and switch from BSDF and just use standard right here, I can go ahead and click on T. And I want this to be a planar projection. And I'm going to go ahead and load the image. So I need to go inside the image folder for our, let's switch to images. And I should have an image here of a flag that I just put in here this morning. It really doesn't matter, but it should be in here. Maybe it's not. So hold on. Oh, here it is, checkerboard TGA. That's it. Just going to apply a checkerboard. Okay. Remember that when you apply images, it automatically tiles. I don't want it to tile, so I'm going to reset so it doesn't do that. And now what I want it to do is I want to use automatic sizing. So there's my checkerboard. Okay. And it's on both sides. But here's what happens when you don't use a UV map. As long as you're in Modeler, this image that we have on here can be kind of a slippery surface. So if I hit T for move, watch what happens. When I move the flag in perspective view, notice how the object moves, but the projected flag doesn't move with it. That's problem number one. We want to fix the image to our object. So I'm going to undo the move. And the other issue that we're going to have too is what if I want to apply a bend or a twist or modify this shape in some way? So if I come under here, under modify, for example, let me go ahead and let's use twist. And then as soon as I use the twist, and I'm doing this from the right view, okay, and I twist this shape, and we look at this in perspective view, look at how the image of the checkerboard flag is distorted. I don't want that. I want it to be mapped on there and, you know, glued on, so to speak, so that it, you know, if you were going to create some sort of blanket or something like that, or a flag as I've done here, and you want to distort it in any number of ways or change its configuration, you want to make sure that that image is mapped on there perfectly, just as if it existed in the real world. So I'm going to undo and bring that back. And now what I want to do is I need to create what is called a UV map for this. And instead of using a planar projection, I'm going to use a UV map. So to do that, down at the bottom here, we have what is called T for texture. W is weight map, T is a texture or UV map, M is for a morph map, and then each of these are for selection sets and that sort of thing. So that we haven't used, but we are going to use a texture map. So what I want to do here now is I'm going to go ahead and I want a new one. And I'll name the texture flag. So this is creating a new UV map. Okay, so I'll name it flag. And I want it to be planar, linear. I want the axis to make sure that I do this correctly. Settings. I think I want it to be along the Z. We'll find out in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click create. And it's created my UV map. Now, if I've done this incorrectly, then maybe Y was the correct one. So what I want to do now is an upper left-hand corner. Instead of wireframe, okay, we'll leave it wireframe here, but under top view, we can look at the UV texture. And now you can see that when I zoom in here, it just looks like a plane. It looks like the image that we created over here. Look, but this is actually a two-dimensional map. Okay, so now what I can do is I can take this, and instead of using planar projection, what I want to do is I want to use a UV map. Okay, and now what I need to do is we don't have UV map specified, which one, because you can have multiple UV maps applied. I'm going to apply the flag, and you'll notice what it does. Here's the checkerboard. Now, what makes this different, we can go ahead and close this now. And I'll go ahead and I'll close this now, is that if I go ahead and I hit T for move, and I proceed to move this around, notice that the image of the checkerboard is fixed to the surface. That's exactly what I want. Likewise, if I go ahead and I use the twist tool, or I use bend or whatever, twist is a good example. I'm going to go ahead and click here from, again, the right view and twist it like so. And now let's look at this in the perspective view. You'll notice that the checkerboard is not distorted the way it was before. Now, what you need to remember, though, is that when you do create a UV map, as you're building your model, you should really apply it early on. When it's such as I've done here, when it was flat, if I tried to apply the UV map when it was twisted, it would still distort. So you want early on in the construction of your object, you want to apply the UV map. And then as you build and add to your object, it will go ahead and it will update with it accordingly. So this is the beginning of what I wanted to cover. Now, in addition to that, we have another one that I wanted to show you. So let's go ahead and let's move on to another new object. And what I want to do, let's see. I need to, let's see, let me pause my recording for a minute. So one of the things that we could do is that the next thing that I want to do is that if I wanted to apply a surface texture to, for example, a cereal box or something like that, I could take each one of the sides and I could make them a separate surface. But if I had planned on animating the cereal box, which you may do if you take Chris's class in the 3D animation course, then you would want to use a UV map for this. That would probably be your best choice. So what I need to do first is I need to go ahead and I need to create a cereal box. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a box about the proportions that we would use for a cereal box. Okay. We'll make it a little bit wider here, a bit wider here. And I'm going to go ahead and stretch this up. So basic cereal box proportions, maybe a little bit taller. There we go. So there's our cereal box. Okie doke. Now, as I said, I could take, and if I switch to polygon mode, I could select each one of these polys and I could make it a separate surface and apply the front, the back, the top, bottom, left and right side to this. There's 6 separate images and 6 separate surfaces. But I think there's a better way of doing that, and that would be with a UV map. So let me go ahead and deselect. And I need to create another map for this now. So I'm going to go ahead and create new. And this is going to be a cereal box. So a cereal. Actually, I'll name it Ritz box. Okay. Initial value, but I don't want the map type to be planar. I want it to be an atlas. An atlas, what it does is it takes the entire object and it breaks it down into a flat surface. And you'll see it as a flat rectangular surface or square surface, actually. But kind of like if you were to, I don't know if this is a good comparison, but if you were to take an animal or some creature and you were to skin it and lay it out flat, that's kind of what you're doing here. You're taking the box apart and it's still one piece, but you're laying it out flat into its separate components. So I'm using Atlas. And you'll notice that if I were doing this for a Coke can or a sphere of some sort, I could also create maps for that. And I'll probably do that on Wednesday. We'll use the cylindrical one to show you how to create a UV map for that you would use for a face or a head, something like that. So, but right now we're just going to use the atlas for our cereal box. And I called it the Ritz box because it's crackers that I'm using, not cereal itself. And I'm going to go ahead and click create. Okay, it created it. And similarly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Q. And I don't want this to be default. I will name this Ritz box or Ritz box is the surface name for this. Okay. And in a moment, it's going to be, it will all change. So I'm going to come back over here and in the top view, instead, I want to see UV texture. And you can see this is the new UV texture. See how it fits within the square, but I have the top and the bottom, the left and the right, and I have the front and the back. So now what I'm going to do, and let's see if I can get this to map correctly, is I already have an image that I want to apply to this. But I could go ahead and I could take this and make a screen capture of it. And I could send it over to Photoshop, and each of the top, bottom, and each of the 6 sides, I could go ahead and I could create my image and then map it on here, and it would be one surface that would be applied to the whole thing. Let me see if I can go ahead and use the one that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I need to go ahead and bring up my surface editor. And I might have to move a few things around, but you can see how this will work. So again, instead of principal BSDF, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use standard. And that just takes the color away for the time being. And I'm going to go ahead and apply T for texture. And instead of planar, we're going to use UV. And then the UV map that I want to apply is the Ritz box. Now I need to select the image. So I'm going to load that image that I brought over. And I need to find, where's my Ritz box? Come on, come on, come on. I thought I copied it. So maybe I put it someplace else. No, so let me go ahead and pause this again. So I forgot to turn the recording back on. So what I have done is I have, I've found the image that I wanted to use for the Ritz box. And with the UV map that I created here for the box, I'm now applying it, but you can see that it doesn't quite fit. Okay, it's close, but no cigar. You can see that the right and the top and the bottom are not quite right yet. So let's zoom in here. I have my UV texture selected in the upper left-hand corner. I also have the image map that I'm using. So let's go ahead and zoom in and make this fit. So now what I want to do is I want to take this image here. Let me see if I can't. I'm having a hard time selecting it. And let's hit T for move. There we go. So now I can move that around until it fits. I can select the other one. Let's deselect. Now let's select the other one. I'm going to go ahead and select the other one over here because the top one still isn't working. There we go. Okay, so now I can take that and notice here's this back part of the box here. And I can take that and I can switch from, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stretch it. But I want it from, instead of, I'll use the mouse selection here, the mouse mode. And I'm going to go ahead and H for stretch, and I'll stretch it down here like so. And you'll notice that it now fits. I'm tweaking the sides a little bit, and maybe I'll stretch it from here a little bit, and that works. So notice that that side fits really nicely. So let's go ahead and turn off stretch and deselect. Let's go ahead and let's select the top. Let's select this one here, the other side. Let's switch back over here and let's fix this side as well. Now I can select this one and do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and hit H for stretch, and I'm going to shrink it down a bit so that it comes down. And you'll notice that it's stretching it up. I know that fits. Now notice that it's reversed. Now that can be fixed. The sides are working. It's the top and the bottom that's still, I guess it's the top that needs to be fixed over here. So again, let's turn off stretch, deselect, and let's come over here. Let's select that one and hit T for move. Let's just move it up like so. I guess I need to move it. Oh, I see. I'm moving it in the wrong direction. There we go. So now it fits perfectly. Okay. So turn off T for move, deselect. So now I'm just moving and stretching the polygons to fit the image that I have here. I have this one here is not quite fitting. So I'm going to go back and select it again and hit H for stretch. And I want it to stretch a little bit. There we go. So we have that close enough for my demonstration today, because I only have a few more minutes. What I wanted to show you how to do though, what to do though, and this would be good because if you're going to go ahead and you're going to animate this and stretch it and do whatever, if I were to select the polygon here and I were to move it, so T for move, you can see that they're all, it's kind of like a piece of rubber stretched onto it, that they're all attached. Well, what I want to do though is, because the Ritz is reversed, is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it and I'm going to paste it. And when I do that, now when I select that polygon and I hit T for move, you'll see that it's unattached. So now what I need to do is I need to go from the top view. So let's switch out of UV and go back to top. And I need to spin it around. So if I hit Y for rotate, and I want it to be from center of selection, not from the mouse. Make sure that this is accurate, and I'll spin it around like so. And when I get to the 180-degree mark, so that it matches, there we go. Turn off rotate. But now you'll notice that the surface normal is flipped the wrong way. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit F for flip. And now it's right reading, and I can deselect. So here's another, I think, really good use of UV maps. And to do this, I used Atlas to do this. And you can create the images for your box or whatever it is that you want to use in another 2D program. I used Photoshop, but if you have another that you would prefer, then that would work as well. Okay. Well, I have to head off to another meeting. That's it for today. I will see you guys later. And I'm going to stop my recording and log off, and I will go on to my next meeting. See everybody Wednesday. Bye-bye.